MONCAY. I teach kindergarten. Take a break is like a timeout. It's used in a really positive way, not as a consequence, but just kids stepping away from the group for a moment, pulling themselves back together, fixing up whatever it is that was causing a disruption either to other kids or to their own learning, and then returning to the group quickly to participate in learning again. Have 2 spaces in the classroom. They're both in areas where we can see the kids and also where they can still see the learning, but they're removed from the group in terms of not being able to touch other people, and they can choose either spot to go to when they're asked to go take a break, and they stay until they're ready to return. The procedure taught at the beginning of the year is that when they're asked to go take a break, they walk to a break chair. We give them ideas of things to do. Take some breaths, close your eyes and imagine a calm space. Observe the other kids and prepare to go back and do what they're doing. And then the instruction is when you're ready to rejoin the group, you can return. And that, can take some kids 30 seconds. They know immediately what it is that they were doing and they know how to fix it right away. I would say we would call a child back if they spent more than 3 to 4 minutes in the break chair without returning on their own. But we do take some time to teach the idea of self-regulation, before I send you to take a break because you're wiggling, or before I ask you to take a break because you are talking to your neighbor. If you feel that coming, you can go to the break chair and come back. It is a tricky concept for kindergarten, but some kids really rely on it, and you can see them separating themselves before a disruption happens. So over the years, I've done a lot of different things. There have been times when I've put photo albums in the break chair and kids can look through those to calm down, or I've put books in there. Lots of times older grades have made us a glitter jar, and we've watched this glitter jar video that's on YouTube about calming down. And so sometimes there's stuff in the break chair if I decide that kids in the class need a strategy, or some kids might use a timer if they need something to watch in order to know when to return. So it's really about reading the class and kind of knowing what they need. And I think if you have a group of kids who are going to need something really concrete to know, when the glitter gets to the bottom, I'm supposed to go back, or when the sand runs out, I'm supposed to go back, I think it's fine. But I also don't want the break space to be a playful space. Right. I want it to be a spot where you go and ultimately learn to self-correct and self-regulate, which at any moment, if we're out at recess or if we're at lunch or if they're in the music room, that the strategies of counting down from 10 or taking some belly breaths or closing your eyes and finding a quiet space, that those strategies that you can do without a concrete thing, I think are really important for them to learn. And so this group happens to be able to self-regulate themselves with those personal strategies. But I'm definitely open to using materials if kids need. It's usually introduced around the 3rd or 4th day of school. Sometimes it might need to be more urgently introduced than others. But I think 3rd or 4th day, kids are pretty comfortable and their kind of personalities are starting to shine, and so you kind of know who it is that is going to need some space. So it's just introduced. I explain to them what it is, that it's taking a break and that it's not a timeout, and that we're all learning how to be at school. We're full of all of these new rules and all of these new things and all of these new people. And sometimes you just need space, either from the group, or you just need time to remember what those rules are, and that's okay. And so we have these spots in the room called the break chair, and if a teacher asks you to go take a break, this is what you do. And then I model for them exactly what to do, trying to get them to notice that I go right away, don't argue, walk, sit down calmly, and then usually the first thing that I model would be like taking 10 deep breaths, looking at the group, like pausing to remember what I'm gonna do when I go back, and then returning. And I like walk through that, and then ask them what they notice and try to get them to point out all of those things. And then in that very first day, try to have everyone go take a break and practice it really rapidly within a couple hours. And so I'll keep a roster with me, and I'll just go down the roster and have 2 kids go at a time and correct anything that needs to be corrected, and kind of point out how kids return really well and are ready to learn when they get back, and are really fixing things up when they return, to try to point that out. And then in the first few days of take a break being a thing in the classroom, just going through that roster over and over again, so that all kids get a chance to practice it a lot. And that's just to establish the idea that everyone needs to take a break sometimes, and that you're really not in trouble when you are, and that kind of setting this routine of you go take a break, you do your deep breaths, you return and learn, and that it's just kind of trying to get them in that habit, so that when you really do need to send them to take a break, that they don't think it's a huge deal because they've seen everyone do it. You know, I screw up a lot and need to rethink what the break chair is for, what I want the kids to be getting out of the break chair, why I'm doing this. Like, this is a long-term game. Like, I am trying to teach self-regulation. I'm trying to get them with strategies that they can use when learning is hard or being part of a group is hard. And some really important pieces to that is like a really neutral tone. Like, I do sometimes feel really frustrated and want to go take a break because I'm feeling so upset about what I just saw. But I think the tone of just take a break. We often don't even say their name. Like, you can just look at a kid and say break. And so trying to keep that tone really neutral, no matter how I'm feeling. And then another piece of it is that when a child returns from a break, that it's over, and they have this responsibility that I do expect of them to come back and have fixed it, but I'm no longer punishing them. There's no consequence following the break. They take their break, they return, and then it's over. And I think that, you know, if they are kicking a chair when they go take a break or grumbling, I'll ask them to return to the break until I can talk to them. But if they successfully take the break and return to learn, then that's it. And another thing that we pay attention to is if kids are going more often than normal, or are trying to seek out taking a break, and that those are separate conversations and separate coaching events for those kids, but nothing happens after a successful break. If you take a break and you return and the problem is persisting, then I'll ask you to take a break again, and if I have to ask you twice, then you need to wait for me to invite you back. So the purpose of take a break, part of the purpose is to not interrupt instruction and not to engage in disruptive behavior. And it's really helpful if you can just say take a break and then carry on with instruction. You can be reading and it's like not even a pause, take a break and you just keep going. And so a tricky thing is if a kid is being disruptive or returning and being disruptive, it's like a little bit more of a pause to be like, go to the break chair, I'll tell you when you can come back. But it is kind of, it's like a elevated break if they have to go back. And I think that practicing it a lot, it helps to eliminate those confusions around that. Like, stay in the break chair until you are ready. I have a book, it's called A Quiet Place. It's just a book of different places that you can go in your mind and kind of the things that you smell and hear and feel in those places. And that's a book that I think can be used for so many grades because the illustrations are beautiful, the language is beautiful. It's a little bit intense for really young kids, but I think that with the very young kids, we spend a lot of time just looking at the pictures and talking about why you might go to that quiet place and what you would hear there and what you would smell there, and if you close your eyes, if you can be there. And I read or paraphrase that book when I teach taking a break by yourself. So if you're having a conflict with a friend, if you come to school and it was a really hard drop off, or you just cannot sit still on the rug because of whatever, that you can go to the break chair and then you can visit your quiet place when you're there. So you can close your eyes and try to smell and feel and hear those places. And then it gives a lot of examples, the beach and the city and the forest and the pond, all of these examples, and then try to get kids to think of their own favorite quiet place and try to remember that and practice going there so that if they need it, they can call upon it when they're having a hard time.